Hello there. I've started a Food for the Heart series and I'm not quite sure where to put it. So I decided on Lady Loy only because when I think about Black Bright News, I think about social issues. When I think about the biblical translator, I think about the Bible, and Lady Loy sits somewhere in between. So I think I'm going to position it here. And today's Food of the Heart series is I'm Fine. And I'm going to read as I normally do, so I keep on time. I don't know when it started, but somewhere along the way, I'm fine became one of the most popular phrases in Britain. You can hardly go a day without saying or hearing it. You all right? Yeah, I'm fine. It's almost become a part of our national anthem. We say it so quickly that sometimes I think the words leave our mouths before they've had permission from our hearts. Have you ever done that? Somebody asks you how you are, and before you've even thought about it, you've already told them you're fine. Then 5 minutes later, you're sitting with a cup of tea thinking, actually, I'm not sure that I am. We're funny creatures, aren't we? I do smile at us sometimes because we've become experts at answering questions that nobody really expects us to answer. Mind you, perhaps it's just as well. Can you imagine standing in Tesco, someone saying, "Good morning, how are you?" And you replying, "Well, funny you should ask." 25 minutes later, they're still standing there clutching a basket with 2 pints of milk and a packet of biscuits, wondering how a simple greeting turned out to be a life story of someone they'd never met. We'd never get our shopping done, so I understand why we do it. I'm fine keeps everything moving. It's neat, it's polite, and it's wonderfully British. But I do wonder sometimes whether we've become so good at saying it that we've started believing it ourselves. Not because we're pretending exactly, but because life doesn't always give us time to stop and ask ourselves the question properly. We know what time we've got to leave for work. We know what's in our fridge. We know when the gas bill is due. We know whose birthday we've forgotten until Facebook kindly reminds us. But when was the last time we stopped for 5 quiet minutes and asked ourselves, how am I really? Not how am I supposed to be? Not how do I look to everyone else? Just how am I? It's an interesting question because the answer changes, doesn't it? One day you're full of energy and the next day you can't work out why. Putting away the washing feels like such an ordeal, almost like you've climbed Mount Everest. I had one of those days recently. I wasn't ill, nothing dreadful had happened. I just felt a bit flat. And because nothing dramatic had happened, I almost talked myself out of feeling the way I was feeling. Isn't that odd? As though we need permission to admit we're having an off day. No, no, pull yourself together. Other people have got bigger problems. Well, that's probably true, but it doesn't stop our own heart from needing a little attention now and then. I sometimes think our hearts are a bit like those little warning lights on the dashboard of a car. They don't come on because they're trying to spoil your journey. They come on because they're trying to help you finish it. Imagine driving along and seeing a warning light flashing and saying, "I'm not looking at that. It'll only worry me." Well, you can ignore it if you like, but the engine might have a different opinion. Yet we do that with ourselves all the time. We get tired and call it laziness. We get disappointed and call it being silly. We get lonely and tell ourselves not to be ridiculous. Our poor hearts must wonder what they have done to get what they have to do to get our attention. Then my thoughts wander to God, as they often do, and I found myself wondering whether he's ever been fooled by "I'm fine." I somehow don't think so, not because he's checking up on us, but because he already knows us. Isn't there something rather comforting about that? Imagine having a friend who knows exactly how we're feeling before we've even found the words. And instead of saying, "Come on, cheer up," They're simply beside you. They don't rush you. They don't try to fix you. They don't give you a 12 easy steps to becoming a happier person by Wednesday afternoon. They just say, I think God is rather good at staying. The Bible is full of God asking people questions, and I've often wondered why. Because he already knows the answers. Where are you? Why are you afraid? What do you want me to do for you? He's not collecting information, he's inviting honesty. Perhaps the questions are gifts. Perhaps he's saying, don't tell me what you think. I want to hear. Tell me what's really going on. Now that's quite a thought, isn't it? Because if God already knows, then prayer isn't about informing him. It's about unburdening ourselves. It's about finally putting down what we've been carrying around while telling everybody we're fine. Mind you, we do make ourselves laugh. We'll tell everybody else that we're fine, and then when we get home, we'll put the kettle on, have a little conversation with it. Honestly, if one more person asks me to do one more thing, the kettle has heard things it can never repeat. If kettles could write books, some of us would be in trouble. Perhaps that's why making a cup of tea has become such a British solution to almost everything. Sometimes somebody's getting married, put the kettle on. Somebody's moving house, put the kettle on. Someone's just had an argument, definitely put the kettle on. Somebody's just told you they're not fine after all. Well, what else are you going to do? You're going to put the kettle on. But somewhere between the steam rising from the cup and the first sip, something else often happens. We slow down, we breathe, we stop performing, we stop trying to be the version of ourselves that everybody else expects. And for a few moments, we're just us. I wonder whether that's one of the reasons Jesus so often met people where they were instead of where they pretended to be. He never seemed particularly interested in polished answers. He noticed the people everyone overlooked. He saw the tears people were trying to hide. He heard what wasn't being said. That's quite a gift, to hear the silence as well as the words. Perhaps that's why I don't think I'm fine is a bad phrase at all. Sometimes we genuinely are, and thank God for those days. We should enjoy them when they come, but perhaps every now and then we owe it to ourselves to answer the question a little bit more honestly, if only in the quietness of our own heart and with God, not because he doesn't already know, but because we need to know. We need to notice when we're weary instead of pretending we're energetic. We need to notice when we're carrying too much instead of convincing ourselves we'll somehow manage one more thing. We need to notice when we're hurting instead of wrapping another I'm fine around it and hoping it quietly disappears. I have a feeling that God isn't offended by our weakness nearly as much as we are. We seem to spend an awful lot of time apologising for being human, and yet he made us that way. He knows we're not machines. He knows we don't wake up every morning full of sunshine and enthusiasm. Some mornings we're cheerful before we've even got out of bed. And some mornings a duvet is having a very persuasive conversation with us. That's life. That's being human. So the next time somebody asks me, how are you? I'll probably still smile and say, I'm fine, because I'm British after all. But I hope I'll remember to ask myself the same question later when everything has gone quiet, because perhaps the most important answer isn't the one I give everybody else. Perhaps it's the one I quietly give to God and to myself, because that's the answer that doesn't have to be polite. It doesn't have to be impressive, and it certainly doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be true. And I hope that landed for someone somewhere when you're saying, I'm fine. Just ask yourself sometimes, am I really? And see what your heart needs. See what you can feed it with to make it feel just a little bit better. And that's Lady Loy over and out, wishing you all the best and hoping you take care of yourself and each other.